A lot of the CFB 26 content creators I watch say they've gotten used to looking at what they call outlier stats when they're scouting so they can see what is or isn't an elite dev trait type of player, but they haven't really elaborated on it yet. Do you think you can create a series on outlier traits for positions and their archetypes that would easily signal a high dev trait? In other words, can we take this screen and those 10 numbers and identify who is going to have a good dev trait based purely off what we could see on the screen when we scout a player? Well, I appreciate the comment and I tried my best, and I would love to walk you guys through what I found. Now, this video is unfortunately a little bit shorter because the main takeaway is I do not think that we can use these numbers at all to identify somebody's dev trait, but I want to show you why that's the case. So for starters, I think we've established two other things already on this channel and on a lot of other channels. The higher of a star rating someone is, the better of a dev trait they have on average, and we know that if you scout them and they are a gem, they are also going to have a much better dev trait. And the same can be said the other way with busts. In other words, if you want to predict a dev trait, starting with just what star is this player and are they a gem or bust is a pretty good start. So I guess the real question isn't can we predict a player's dev trait using just the stuff on this screen, but really, do those 10 numbers, does the height and weight, does the player archetype give us any additional information that we don't already get from the number of stars the player has and whether or not they are a gem or a bust? Well, guys, I looked at 299 wide receivers across 3, 4, and 5 stars, and I tried a bunch of different strategies of trying to figure out if we could use these stats in some meaningful way. I first tried to use the height and weight because maybe, I don't know, maybe elite dev trait guys are already better athletes, so they're just bigger, stronger, faster after you control for the player archetype of wide receivers and for their star status, right? Like maybe a 5-star gritty possession guy, if they're just 50 pounds heavier or 4 inches taller than everybody else, maybe that's a sign that their dev trait is really, really solid. That is not the case. Not only is it not the case, I don't know if height and weight really varies that much across star status at all. But okay, there's still two other parts of this screen that we can consider. We can consider the actual abilities side of things, and we can consider all of these different attributes. Now, for wide receivers, you get the same 9 attributes for most of the screen, and then there's one wild card attribute that will vary based off of what kind of player the receiver is. For abilities, I tried 2 different things. What if we try to just count the number of unique abilities that somebody starts off with and see if that has any relationship with dev traits? And again, the answer is no. But what if you actually weighted them? Because a gold ability is probably a lot more valuable than a bronze ability, right? And even if you weight them, where a bronze is 1, silver 2, gold 3, and platinum 4, it still is not predictive at all. So that leads us to the core part of what I think that comment was referring to of these outlier stats, the actual attributes that you could see from a player when you scout them. Now, I was exhaustive here. I tried a lot of different ways because I want this to work. For example, what if you only look at one stat? Does speed just predict dev trait across different archetypes after you control for their star status and for whether or not they're a gem or bust? Or what about the other 9 stats? What if we do each one individually? Or what if we just take an average of all of them? What if you just take a simple average? Or what if you take the maximum value? Maybe an outlier stat really should find that one of these things, it doesn't matter which, one of them is 97, and all of a sudden that means that there's a good dev trait. Or what if it's the opposite? What if as long as you don't have a super low minimum, then you're good, right? Like maybe if it's all 70s, you're gonna have a great dev trait. If you have a 58 overall awareness, then we know that you're not gonna be good. And finally, what if you try selecting the stats based off of the archetype? Like maybe an elusive route runner should weigh route running more heavily than a gritty possession guy, right? Maybe a gritty possession guy cares more about short route running, catching traffic, and catching, while an elusive route runner is more of a playmaker that cares more about acceleration, agility, medium route running, and that kind of stuff. Even if you do that, even if you select the 2 or 3 stats that is probably most relevant for that archetype, you are not any more accurate at predicting a dev trait by knowing those stats than you are by simply knowing how many stars they have and whether or not they're a gem or bust. And again, this sucks. I wanted this to work so badly that I even tried more advanced methods. I tried both basic decision trees and random forest modeling, which are two ways of doing non-linear predictive modeling, because maybe the real outlier stuff isn't a linear thing. Maybe the jump from 85 to 90 on speed is not nearly as big of a jump from 90 to 95 on speed. So maybe if we used non-linear methods, maybe we would capture some of that nuance. Well, again, even if you throw all of these stats, the weighted abilities, and the player archetype at these models, they are not any more predictive than a simple linear model that uses whether or not they're a gem or bust and the number of stars that someone has. Now, I hate to make a video that's basically like, hey, we tried this really cool thing, I do not think it exists, sorry. But that's my take on this one. I actually, as of right now, I do not think personally that there is anything on this screen that will tell you someone's dev trait beyond how many stars they have, and when you scout them, whether or not they are a gem or a bust. But I want to be wrong. I want to find some sort of super magic formula that works here. So I am going to share the data set that I put together manually to do this video. It'll be in the video description. You're welcome to make a copy of it and go do whatever analysis you want to do. And if somebody finds a way to figure out someone's dev traits using just these things, please shoot me an email. I would love to see it. I still think those stats are great, and I think they're great at selecting what kind of player you want. Like when I look at a receiver, I am still going to really care what that speed number is, especially if I'm looking for a specific type of receiver. But if that speed number is super high or super low, I know it's not going to actually impact somebody's dev traits. All right, that's all I got. Sorry for the different location, filming this here for Thanksgiving. Wanted to make sure to give you all something for the holiday. Hopefully I see you next time, and hopefully with more positive news. Until then, peace out.